Hello everybody and welcome to the channel Out of Ammo Out of Time. I'm your host Krabby Terror 8 and here we are in episode 50 of the Investigator Games. Yes, episode 50 of season 1 of the Investigator Games with everybody's favorite butler and assistant, Carson Sinclair. Now, for those of you who are new to the channel, welcome. Yes, this is quite a milestone, 50 episodes in season 1 of the Investigator Games, and I'm sure for you new people, you're thinking, what is the Investigator Games, or TIG as it is now called? Well, the Investigator Games, it's like the Hunger Games. We take each investigator true solo through a scenario, and in season 1 of the Investigator Games, it is The Gathering, and in season 2, which has been underway for nearly 50 episodes, but not quite, it is the Midnight Masks. Now, what happens is these poor hapless investigators go through the scenario and then we see how they do. And depending on how they do, they end up in a league table like this one. And this is the season 1 league table. Now, spoilers, season 2 takes the carryover points and adds the Midnight Mask to that. So obviously things change in season 2, but we're back at season 1 at the moment, doing each of the Scarlet Keys investigators. And you can see everybody is there so far from the very top all the way down to the very bottom. And in season 1, we can see that Daniela Reyes, Safina Russo, Bob Jenkins, Akachi and Silas, and indeed Leo Anderson are all up the top with 7 and 8 points respectively. Now, The Gathering is a little bit different to the Midnight Masks in the sense that to get more than 6 points is the standard. You get the 4 victory points plus 2. To get the 7 or 8, you have to be lucky in a couple of ways. You have to be able to get the not only the standard ones, but you've got to get the ghouls that appear in the attic and the cellar. Now, they don't always turn up, obviously, and you've got to kill them as well. So it's only rarely that happens. Daniela Reyes managed to take them all out. It's the only one who has, and got the full 8 XP. Now, for those of you who are new to Arkham Horror, the card game, well, yes, there's an awful lot of content to cover in the game these days, but I'm assuming you know how to play a little bit. I also recognize people come here who are relatively inexperienced, want to see how these investigators run. That's fine. But if you've never played the game before, I would really recommend that you play it in real life or look up some of the very excellent introductory videos that are available and have a look at one of those, play it a bit, and then maybe come back to the Midnight Masks. Now, for those of you, The Gathering. Those of you who have played The Gathering or indeed the Midnight Masks a bit, I have some strategic videos that cover lore, story, gameplay, strategy, the whole lot. Myself and other awesome content creators have contributed to that, and they are well worth a look if you want to improve your gameplay in those scenarios. So there we go. Yeah, so we're here with Carson Sinclair, the butler. And what we're going to do is we're going to go through his abilities and his stat lines. We'll talk about that and his backstory. And then we will go through the deck that we're going to that Carson has chosen to take through this scenario. And then we'll be ready to kick off, I guess, and see how he goes. So yes, Carson Sinclair, he is traded assistant. He's a butler. And immediately you can see that he's one of those strange investigators with sort of very consistent stats. I think, is Preston like that? Oh, there's so many of these, 50 investigators, 50 plus. I often forget, but I think Preston's like that. And good old, what's his name? I always forget his name as well. Calvin. Yeah, there's a couple of investigators. Everything's low, so 2 on everything, which is going to be a challenge, of course, if you are playing true solo, because you tend to need some strengths here if you're playing true solo in a multiplayer, and I think Carson is really designed for multiplayer. It's going to be less of an issue. You can lean into your speciality, whatever that might be. So yes, he's 2 on everything, which means he's not very good at anything, basically, which is going to be a problem and might be a bit of a challenge for him in the gathering. Now, true solo. Now, he has a special ability which is completely useless in true solo, so you may take an additional action during your turn, which can only be used on the below turn ability or action ability, and the action is choose another investigator at your location. They immediately take an action as if it were their turn, limit once per round for each investigator. Now, in a multiplayer game, that's awesome. He's handing out extra actions left, right, and center, so being very supportive of others. In true solo, it's completely useless. So, I mean, you could house rule it, I suppose, and say, well, in true solo, and I'm surprised they didn't do that, but anyway, in true solo, he gets an extra action, I suppose, you could say. But anyway, we're going to play by the rules. We have to, for the Investigator games, everybody has to play equally with their abilities, and some lean more into true solo than others. That's just the way that it is. So unfortunately, we won't be using his special ability because there are not other investigators around, which makes it a bit easier. I don't have to think about his special ability. He has an Eldar sign effect, which is unfortunately +0, so he doesn't get any uptick for it. But you draw a card and you may resolve this effect anytime another investigator at your location resolves their Elder Sign effect. Again, that would be awesome in multiplayer, but unfortunately doesn't work in true solo. However, the Elder Sign effect, at the very least, you get to draw a card. So that's something. So there we go. Yes, not really designed for true solo, which is going to make him a little bit of a challenge to play, but we will plow on nevertheless. Let's flip Carson over and have a look at his reverse side. He takes a standard deck size of 30, and we will look at that in a moment. And you can choose Seeker, Mystic, or Survivor cards in that way. He can take... sorry. So he takes a standard deck size of 30. Then you choose your secondary class of choice. So when you're creating your deck, you can either make him a secondary class Seeker, so he'd be a Guardian Seeker, or a Guardian Mystic, or a Guardian Survivor. So you choose from those 3, and you will see that I've chosen Survivor for some obvious reasons we will go into. So he can take Guardian cards 0 to 5, neutral cards 0 to 5, and up to 10 level 0 to 1 events and or skills of your chosen secondary class. He also gets 2 copies of As You Wish and Selfless to a Fault, and we will look at those in the usual random basic weakness. So we'll look at all that in a moment. So what's his backstory? What's his deal? So Carson Sinclair has served 3 generations of the Webb family in Arkham. Always proper, Carson watched with disapproval as his most recent employer, Hercule Webb, began bringing bizarre artifacts and profane tomes into the house, aided in these endeavours by Webb's business manager, Dupuis. When Mr. Webb was swallowed by a dimensional rift, no one believed Carson's description of the harrowing event. Carson has devoted himself to proving Dupuis' guilt and to restoring the children as the rightful heirs to the Webb fortune. So there we go. That's Carson Sinclair in a nutshell. The other thing I didn't cover off was his physical and mental strength. They're both kind of okay at a 6. Yeah, they're not standout, but they're not terrible, but they're not exactly great either. So they're sort of very okay as well. All right, now if we look at his deck, so in the past, just to explain with the decks, just to keep everything equal, FFG used to create starter decks for the investigators, and they would consist of the core set and whatever campaign set the investigator came from. They don't create those anymore, so I just create them myself using that mix of cards, using just the core set, and in this case, Scarlet Keys cards. And as I said, with Carson, we've chosen Survivor rather than Seeker or Mystic. And the main reason for that is that it allows me to do some testless cluing. which is pretty important when all your stats are fairly low. So Survivor seemed like an obvious choice. Anyway, let's go through the cards. So his special signature card is a skill card with the usual. It's got 3 wild card pips on it. It's called As You Wish. You can commit it only to a skill test being performed by another investigator. So, so it is basically a useless card because we can only commit it to skill tests being performed by another investigator. Now, again, you could house rule this, of course, and say you could commit it to your own skills, but we've got to play by the rules. So these cards are essentially useless because we can't use them. So that's a bit unfortunate. Then we have Selfless to a Fault, which is his weakness. You put it into play into your threat area. At the end of your turn, if you did not commit at least 1 card skill test performed by another investigator, take a horror and shuffle to a fault into your deck. Well, we will be doing that because there are no other investigators. Dear. And then his random basic weakness was Haunted. -1 to each of your skills. Great. That means we're at 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, but you can discard it with 2 actions. So not the end of the world. So as long as this doesn't turn up at a really inopportune time, for example, when we're trying to fight the Ghoul Priest or something, Haunted is probably not going to be a problem. So it really, as long as it doesn't turn up at the wrong time, we should be okay. Okay, so let's have a look at what I put together as a deck. And we'll start with essentially the offensive cards in the deck, cards for fighting, and there's quite a lot of them. It's true solo. We've got to make sure we can fight, because otherwise we'll never finish the scenario. So I've got 2 machetes. Yes, we are not doing anything like Taboo here. It's hard enough as it is. So I've got 2 machetes in the hand, which are, of course, just a no-brainer. If you're a Guardian starting out, you get +1 for the attack. If it's the only enemy engaged with you, then it deals +1 damage. But it has to be engaged with you, so if you've evaded or there is more than 1 enemy, then that doesn't work. But as long as that's not the case, pretty good card. I've also included this Runic Axe. It's expensive, costs 4, takes up 2 hand slots, so it's a hefty weapon. It is in the Scarlet Keys one. It's customizable. It uses 4 charges. You can replenish one of these charges at the start of each round. So that's good. You can sort of spend a charge, but you get a charge back. So it's sort of constantly replenishing itself. Obviously, if you use 2 charges or more, then obviously you don't get them back. So it's got an action fight. You get +1 for this attack, pretty standard. Before this attack, you may spend any number of charges to imbue the axe with that many different inscriptions. Now, this is one of these customizable cards. So as you upgrade it, you can add extra customizable ability. Now, at the moment, all we've got is accuracy and power. So essentially, we can spend 2 charges at the moment because they have to be different things. So accuracy means we get an additional +2 for the attack. So that will give us +3. And it does +1 damage. So really nice card. Yes, it is taking up 2 hand slots. Luckily, we don't really have many things. In fact, do we have any other things that take up hand slots? I don't think we do, other than the machete. So pretty good. We can be doing +3 to an attack and getting +1 damage if we want to use 2 of those charges. Or we can just go for the +1 attack, +1 damage, sort of standard, and we'll get that back. So that just keeps rolling over if we only use it once, of course. But of course, if you're using it multiple times, then it's not going to replenish. So you've got to be a bit strategic about how you use the Runic Axe. So there we go. That's offensive. This is also an offensive spell, and this is one of the reasons why I chose Survivor, because you get these sort of testless effects, which is great when we've only got relatively low ability to fight, which is another reason, that I chose the Runic Axe, because we can push up our fight by +3, which gives us a 5 fight, which is much more respectable. Now, this is called Exploit Weakness. This is again in the Scarlet Keys. It's an event card. It costs 2. You can fast play it before revealing a chaos token during an attack or evasion attempt you are performing, and only if the difficulty of the test is 0. So it needs to be a 0. That's the main problem with it. However, if that is the case, if that is met, then the test automatically succeeds. So instead of this test normal effects, discard the attacked or evaded enemy, or if it's elite, automatically evade it and deal 3 damage instead. So really good card. I mean, the only slight downside is getting that, the difficulty of the test is currently 0, so you need to be able to set that up. That shouldn't be too hard most of the time, but it's possible that you're not able to do that because it has to be exactly 0. But anyway, I think it's a great card if it works, because either you can discard an enemy, or you can, with an elite like the Ghoul Priest, you can do 3 points of damage. So great card. We've then got the good old Beat Cop as an ally. Again, a bit on the expensive side. That's the biggest problem with this deck, is that it's a bit on the expensive side. But the Beat Cop gives us +1 fight, which pushes our fight up to a base of 3. And of course, we can discard the Beat Cop to do 1 damage to an enemy at your location. So definitely worthwhile. We've got a couple of Vicious Blows, which obviously is a skill test. It adds a +1 to a fight with the pip, and it does +1 damage, so that was a no-brainer as well. And finally, from a fight perspective, we've got a couple of the good old Overpowers, which give us a couple of fight pips. And again, going back to that card, Exploit Weakness, those sorts of things can help us get to that 0 and really do quite a bit of damage, or whatever we need to do. So we've got quite a lot of offensive cards, in the deck, which we need to do because we're true solo. So I think pretty happy with those. If we move on to getting clues, which is the other thing that we have to do, we've got quite a lot of cards to do that as well. And again, leaning into kind of testless abilities. This is another Scarlet Keys card. It's a 2-cost event again. It's called Shed a Light. You can fast play it before revealing a Chaos token, so it's a similar kind of effect that we saw with Exploit Weakness. During an investigation you're performing, and only the difficulty of this test is currently 0, this test automatically succeeds. You discover 1 additional clue at this location and an additional clue at any location. So again, really great card to kind of get those testless clues happening. So got a couple of those. Now, speaking of testless clues, we've got the classic Look What I Found. You can fast play it after you fail a skill test by 2 or less, and you discover 2 clues at your location. So again, testless clues. And this way as well, we've also got evidence, which if you defeat an enemy, you can fast play it and you can discover a clue at your location. Or if you don't want to use it for that, we've got a couple of intellect pips that can, for example, push our intellect up to 0, which we could use to shed a light. So really nice. And finally, in terms of investigation, the classic perception skill test. Commit it, if you succeed, draw a card. So we've got those. So lots of ways of getting clues. And again, because of our relatively low stats, we've got ways to get testless clues if we need to. So I feel pretty good about that. And then just to round things out, we've got the couple of guts in there. We've got a couple of manual dexterities. We've got a couple of unexpected courages, which, just help boost our stats if we need to. We've also got a couple of luckies, which always come in handy if we are failing skill tests. And finally, 2 emergency caches, which we will probably need because some of our cards, particularly some of these Guardian cards like the Runic Axe and the Beat Cop, are on the expensive side, which is another reason for going with Survivor cards, because they tend to be on the cheaper side, whereas Guardian cards tend to be on the more expensive side. So there we go. That's what I've done. Don't know what you think. I think it's considering how challenging Carson is, I think it's a pretty good set. So there we go. We'll close and shuffle that up. Now, I spoke to Carson in the green room. Yes, he's just there in the study. He's just standing very stiffly. Actually, he's polishing. What's he doing? He's polishing the bookcase in the study. Oh, Carson, you don't need to do that. We have a cleaning crew that come in afterwards and clean everything. Anyway, so he's in there polishing and generally keeping and tidying up. But anyway, he's there in the study. The crowds are coming in. So I spoke to him in the green room. He's not a man who says very much, to be honest. He says he's happy to be helping the Investigator Games in any way he can. So it's not about him winning. It's about the Investigator Games being the winner in the end. Yes, Carson, very self-effacing in that way and self-deprecating. But we'll see how he goes. It's hard to know how he will go. The gathering is usually fairly straightforward. So as long as things don't go too crazy and we end up with our weaknesses being drawn when the Ghoul Priest is out, I don't think he's going to manage to convince Leader Chandler that she should come on board. I don't think that's going to happen, just because he's got a relatively low intellect rating. So I just don't think he's going to be able to do that. But we'll see how he goes. We're all set up here in Octagon. We're all ready to go. So we'll just shuffle up all the various cards. And I guess while we're waiting for the horn to go off, we will read the agenda and the act deck. So what's going on? It's late at night. You're holed up in your study researching the bloody disappearances that have been taking place in the region. A few hours into your research, you hear the sound of strange chanting coming from your parlour down the hall. And at the same time, you hear dirt churning as if it were digging, as if something were digging beneath the floor. And trapped as you leap to investigate. Well, Carson's got an agility of 2, so I think get up very slowly to investigate the door. The door to your study vanishes before your eyes, leaving behind only solid wall. You're trapped inside your study until you can find another way out. So there we go. We're all ready to go. Oh, there it goes. There goes the horn, and the crowd goes wild. Carson stiffly bows to the crowd. And we are ready to begin episode 50 of season 1 of the Investigator Games. Okay, here we are. So what do we want? What do we want? What do we want? Well, we want a weapon. We want an ally. And we want ways to get clues, basically. I should just flip the study. That's really what we want to do. And particularly clues, because what we don't want to happen is end up sitting in the study for 3 or 4 turns. Because Investigator Games is not only about how many victory points you get on the table, but also how quickly you do it. So if you get the 6 victory points, where you end up on the table, because there's quite a lot of people with 6, is how quickly you actually complete the gathering. So anyway, let's have a look. Let's draw many. Let's draw our 5 and see what we get. Okay, well, we've got Haunted, so we've got to draw for that. So there we go. Well, we got the Machete, so that's good. And we've got the Beat Cop. That's good. And we've got a Perception. They're all good. They're all good cards. I'm going to throw these 2 in because I want to see if we can get something else around clues. So 3, 4, 5. Wow, there we go. Okay. There we go. We'll shuffle that up. So, yeah, pretty good. We've now got 2 perceptions here. We've got the Beat Cop, we've got the Machete, and we've got a Lucky in Hand, which can come in very handy. So that's good. We can set ourselves up early for when we have to take on the Ghoul Priest, so that's good. And we've got ways of getting clues in the early part of the game. So that's pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. So yeah, what are we going to do? So we've got 3 actions. So I think the first action is got to be spending 3 and bringing out the Machete because, yeah, if we get any kind of ghoul minion or anything like that, we want to be able to defend ourselves at the very least because our evasion isn't great either. So we need to do that. So it does mean we can't bring out the Beat Cop yet, but we've still got 2 actions left. So I think I'm going to try and get these 2 clues. So we're a 2 versus a 2. I'm going to use Perception to make us a 4 versus a 2. So we're 2 up. Let's see what the Chaos Bag has. Hello, Chaos Bag. Chaos Bag says it's empty. I didn't bring out the Chaos Bag. There we go. We've got the Chaos Bag. Let's try that again. Oops. Put everything out except the Chaos Bag. Chaos Bag gives us a -1, so we succeed. We get the clue. And we draw a card. Nice. Oh, and we get the Exploit Weakness. So there we go. There's another card, which we probably won't use at the moment. We've got 1 action left. So, I think I'll use perception again. Let's not waste any time. So a 4 versus a 2. Let's see what the chaos bag gives us. And it gives us a skull, which we didn't need to do that because that's a 0. But that's okay. We get to draw a card again, and we get a guts, and we get the other clue. So we've got both of our clues. So that's a good start. That's a good start. So we've got ourselves a machete out. We've got both of the clues. Now, yes, I could throw them in and move straight to the hallway, but I'm not going to do that because if we do draw some kind of enemy, like a ghoul minion or the ravenous ghoul, this next time and we're in the study, we can get rid of that enemy just by throwing in the clues. So we're actually better holding off. So that was the first turn. Pretty good, I think. We got our machete out, and then we successfully investigated twice, and we got our clues. So we're off and running, and we're out of the study next time. So we'll move into that was the investigation phase. So we'll move into the enemy phase, or the enema phase, as I call it. There's no enemies or enemas to speak of. We'll move into upkeep unexpected courage. That always comes in handy. We might need that in case we get rotting remains, crypt chills, those sorts of things. We've got to make sure that we don't lose anything. Okay, so we're into the first Mythos phase. The first Doom is down. Let's see what the lovely encounter deck has. There we go. I called it rotting remains. You play this long enough, you start to kind of predict when things are going to come out. Here we go. I love the flavor text on this. A sickening display of gore causes you to retch. You're glad this wasn't you. Yeah, indeed. Okay, so we've got a test 3. For each point you fail bar, you take a horror. We're at 2, but we can make that a 4 versus a 3. We've also got a lucky in hand. I don't want to waste my unexpected courage. I think 4 versus 3 is pretty good. The skulls are 0. So we're 4 versus 3. Let's see what the chaos bag has. And the chaos bag gives us -2. So we've only taken... so we weren't successful. I could use the lucky, but I want to keep the lucky. So 4 minus 2 is 2. 2 versus 3 means we take 1 horror. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. I think we can wear a horror at this stage. There we go. There's the horror. Okay, so we took a horror. No big deal. Let's move in to the investigation phase. 3 actions on to good old Carson. Okay, well, let's throw in the clues. It doesn't take an action to do that, so we can throw in the 2 clues. And, yep, we trapped. Okay, we can flip trapped. The door on the floor. You notice that the edges of your newly purchased rug have tattered and mud-stained. Finding this odd, you shift the furniture aside and pull back the rug. To your surprise, you see the door leading out of your study. You slowly turn the knob and the door swings open, revealing your hallway below. You jump through the doorway, landing on your feet on soft dirt. The door to the study slams shut above you. The smell of burning wood fills the narrow hall, intermingled with the scent of rot and decay. So we put out these cards. We've already done that. We're in the hallway. The study goes. Bye-bye study. And we're in the hallway. We can flip the hallway, which of course is a one shroud, no clue situation. And there we go. So we are into Act 2. The barrier, a glowing barrier, blocks the path to your parlor. As you move toward it, intense heat forces you to back away. Picking up a handful of dirt, you toss it at the barrier and watch in horror as the dirt incinerates. Perhaps there's something in the cellar or the attic that can help. When the round ends, investigators in the hallway may as a group spend the requisite number of clues to advance. So there we go. We're in the hallway and we still have 3 actions. So, yes. Normally I would take a trip up to the attic, but I'm going to do something slightly different. Because, at the moment we're fighting with a 3. I'm going to take an action to take an extra resource up to 4. Then I'm going to take an action and play the beat cop. Yep, so we lose all of our resources. And that's partly so that we're now fighting base fight of 3. So with the machete, we're up to 5. 4, sorry. 2, 3, 4, not 5. Yeah, so we're fighting at a 4. But also we've got a bit of soak here now, so that if we start we get more rotting remains and things like that, we don't need to worry that we're going to start, getting into the danger zone in that way. So I think that's pretty good. So speaking of taking horror, we are now going to take a trip up to the attic. La-di-da-di-da, up to the attic. Flip that. And yes, we are in the attic. Force, when you enter the attic, take a horror. So we take another horror. There we go. So we're already 2 horror. So good job we've got this extra. In fact, why don't we put one of the horror onto the beat cop instead of putting it onto us? There we go. Let's do that. Okay, so, yep. And we're here in the attic. Yeah, I've noticed something here. The bloody carcass of a malformed beast swings from a meat hook chained to the ceiling. Blood drains slowly from the carcass, dripping into a small barrel. Whoever put the bloody carcass of the malformed beast up here was very considerate that they put a barrel underneath it. That was very nice of them that they did that, wasn't it? Anyway, so yes, we're in the attic and we are ready to go for next time. We can grab these clues. So yes, that took some time in terms of getting the extra money and then getting the beat cop out, but I think it's well worth it because we're now set up. So let's move in to the enemy phase. There are no enemies to speak of. We'll move into upkeep and we get our Selfless to a Fault. Forgotten about this card. At the end of your turn, if you put this into our thread area, the thing is we take a horror, so this is another horror. So good job we're soaking up horror with an ally as well, because that's a bit of a pain, that card. It's essentially a weakness that just says take a horror. Okay, but we don't need to do that till the end of our turn. It's not the end of our turn at the moment. So let's move into the Mythos phase, the second Mythos phase, 2 Doomer down. Let's see what the encounter deck has. And we are Frozen in Fear. I'd rather be Frozen in Fear now than draw Frozen in Fear when we're about to take on the Ghoul Priest, let me tell you. It is a bit of a painful card, though, because it kind of limits our move, fight, and evade. Now, at the moment, we don't need to move, so not a biggie. And then we've just got to test 3 willpower to get rid of it. So we don't want this hanging around. These can be real pains for low willpower investigators. So we do want to do something about it. Yeah, so there we go. So let's move into the investigation phase. 3 actions on to good old Carson. Okay, I'm just take a pause to see how we're going. We're actually going pretty well. We're only in turn 3. We've already gotten ourselves out of the study. We're up in the attic. We've got our offensive weapons in place. It's really just a case of getting the rest of the clues. And of course, the cellar will be a bit more of a challenge for that, but hopefully we will be in a position, hopefully we might get some of our testless clues cards to do that. And then it's really just a case of taking on the Ghoul Priest once we've got all the cards that we need. So we should be okay, but let's focus on what we need to do here at the moment. And this is a 1 Shroud location, and we are a 2, so we're up by 1. So there's no hurry. I think we just go ahead and try and get these clues. So first action, let's see how we go. 2 versus 1. Chaos Bag gives us a skull. There are no ghouls at the location, so we succeed. We get that clue because it's a 0. Let's go ahead and do that again. Chaos Bag gives us a +1. Wow, so we get the other clue. And not only do we get the other clue, Frozen in Fear doesn't stop us investigating at all. Not only do we get that, but we've actually gotten our victory point, and the crowd goes wild. Yes, the crowd goes wild as we get our first victory point. We'll put a little damage token on here so that we know that we've got that. So we've got 1 action left. What do we do? What do we do? What do we do? Now, I want to stay in the attic just in case we get the ghoul we want, because we're sort of set up to fight. We could take a resource, because at the moment we're a bit under resource. So I might take a resource and do that. Yes. So that's the end of our turn, which means first of all, Selfless to a Fault. Take a horror and shuffle it back into our deck. So that goes back in and it shuffles and we take a horror. Okay, and then we do this one, Frozen in Fear. Now we are a 2 versus a 3. So I've got a choice here. I could either use the Lucky or I could use the Unexpected Courage. Let's use the Unexpected Courage. So that gives us a 4 versus a 3. We're 1 up. Let's see what the Chaos Bag has. It has a 0. So that was good. That was a success. So we've gotten rid of our Frozen in Fear. There we go. Oh, great. So pretty good all round, actually. We managed to get both of the clues. We took a resource. We got rid of both our weakness and the Frozen in Fear. So we are clear again, and we are ready to head down to the cellar. We're getting a bit low on cards, though. That's the only problem. We've only got 2 cards, so we need to get our hand refreshed with some extra cards, and we need some new ways to get clues, because the cellar is a 4 shroud, and we're not really set up to do that at the moment. So we've just got to think that through. Okay, let's move into the enemy phase, or the enema phase. There is no enemies, so let's move into upkeep, and we get an overpower. Okay, well, that's fine for fighting, but again, we're not really getting the things we need to take, because we need at least 1 clue from the cellar, preferably both, because we want to get both of the victory points. So there we go. So let's move into the Mythos phase. The 3 doom are down. That means this agenda flips. Let's see what is on the other side. The other side says, a lapse in time. Your house continues to change before your very eyes. The walls have decayed and the ground in many rooms has turned to dirt. It's almost as if you've been transported somewhere else, although entirely. Although every now and again you recognize elements of your former home. Oh, there's my dusting jacket. Ah, yes, there's my there's my cigar humidifier for my master, that kind of thing. Anyway, never mind. So yes, we have to either discard a card at random or take 2 horror. I don't think we can take the 2 horror. I think we're going to have to discard a card at random. We've taken already 3 horror. So here we go. We will do a random discard. And what do we lose? Well, we lose the exploit weakness. Okay. I mean, yeah, it's not the end of the world, but yeah, anyway, there's no way I was taking 2 more horror, because that would have meant we were 4 of 6. You know, we would have been getting a bit, it would have made, 1 failure, 1 on order fail Frozen in Fear, and it would have been all over. So, nope. Okay, let's see what we've got next, which is the rise of the ghouls. The floor beneath you is giving way, and you see a vast network of tunnels twisting in the darkness below. Shapes and silhouettes of strange creatures move swiftly through the tunnels, trying to find a way up. You don't want to be here when they do, and we've got 7 turns or rounds or whatever they're called to finish that before that flips. Okay, and yes, of course, with the barrier, we have to get the requisite number of clues, with which you've got 2 of the 3. So, yes. Okay, let's move into the investigation phase. 3 actions. On to Carson. Now, a couple of things. We could move right down into the cellar now, but I don't want to do that. And the reason I don't want to do that is it's possible if we're in the cellar and we move into the Mythos phase, we could get what's it called? Shrouded fog, or fog of, I can't remember what it's called. It's the one that increases the shroud by 2, and we don't want that at the moment. So we want to avoid getting that particular card. I'd rather get that somewhere where it doesn't matter. I could also move into the hallway, but the problem is if we then get the ghoul that sits in the attic, we would have to go back up and take another horror. And I don't want to do that either. So I'm going to stay in the attic at the moment and draw some cards, at least a couple of cards, and then we might move out to the attic or stay. Anyway, so let's draw. So first action, let's draw a card. And we get guts. Okay. Second action, let's draw a card. Get big cop. I need clue cards. Clue cards. Third action. Let's go ahead and draw again. What could go wrong? Vicious blow. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. How many more fight cards do we need? I mean, it's great. Don't get me wrong. We can fight for days, but we need... I mean, apart from lucky, we really aren't really in a position to take on the cellar. What we need is look what I found, and we'll be done. So that was kind of frustrating. Yes, so we took 3 actions to draw cards. We got ourselves lots of good cards, but not really the cards that we're looking for. But anyway, we've got time. So let's move on into the enemy phase. No enemies to speak of. Let's move into upkeep, and we get our exploit weakness back. Another fight card. I'm starting to feel like we overdid the fight cards. Oh boy. Okay. Let's move into the Mythos phase. The first doom of the second agenda is down. Let's see what the Chaos bag has. And it has Obscuring Fog. This is exactly what I was talking about. So yes, can you imagine if we'd gone down to the cellar, we hadn't succeeded with luck or whatever, or we'd, taken a resource and then we'd got an Obscuring Fog? It would have been horrendous because we would have then been basically having to investigate at the 6. And that would have been just so bad. So anyway, that's here. So you put it on. It's not like Locked Door. You attach it to your location. So put it there. Whoo, there you go. That was definitely worthwhile. So let's move into the investigation phase. 3 actions onto Carson. Well, I guess we'll try and draw into some kind of clue card, and we get a manual dexterity, and then we get machete. Really? I'm going to move out. Do I move out of here? No, let's draw again. As you wish, which is totally useless. So we've got a hand. So there we go. I'm going to have to just bite the bullet and go down to the cellar after this because this is just getting insane and crazy. Anyway, so another kind of wasted round. Enemy phase. There are no enemies to speak of. So we move into upkeep. We've got to get rid of something. What did we actually draw? We draw the Runic Axe. More fighting. But we'll get rid of As You Wish, because we don't need that. So more fights again. We've got so many fight cards, and we've just none of our investigation cards are coming through. I mean, to be fair, we did get 2 perception cards at the beginning, which I used. So, I can't complain from that perspective. But there's still 2 Look What I Found. There's 2 Light Them Ups. And there's also 2 of those... where you can kill an enemy and get a clue, which have 2 intellect pips on them. So I think we're going to have to bite the bullet, and I think we're going to have to go down to the cellar because we can't just keep wasting time like this. So we move into the Mythos phase. The second doom is down. Let's see what the encounter deck has. And it has Crypt Chill, which, is not a big deal, to be honest, because we've got another machete. In fact, we've got another big cop, but we've got a machete, or we've got the Runic Axe. So we could use either in place of. So test for... Now, we do have a Guts, so we could make it a... Yeah, let's give it a go. We've got plenty of cards. So we're doing a 4 versus a 4. Let's see what the Chaos bag has. And it's got a -2, so we fail. That's all right. We get rid of the machete. We lose the Crypt Chill. So there you go. Not a big problem. So we will move into the investigation phase. 3 actions onto Carson. Now, I've got a choice here. I could bring out the Runic Axe. That will use up 2 hand slots, but I'm feeling that that's actually going to be a good card to have in place. So I'm going to spend 4. I've got the money. And I will bring out the Runic Axe. The other good thing is the machete can be a problem if you've got more than 1 enemy. So that isn't the case at the moment. Okay, so we've brought out the Runic Axe. That's our first action. I think we go down to the cellar. I think we spend 2. I don't want to wait here anymore. And we will go down to the cellar. And as we're going down to the cellar, dunk, dunk, dunk. We are so busy admiring our Runic Axe and telling the big cop all about how awesome it is that we don't look what we're doing, and we slip and tumble down the stairs and take a damage. Ouch. We take a damage. There we go. Okay, so we're in the cellar. That's our turn over. So all we've got to do now is get these 2 clues at a Shroud of 4. Now, I know you're all saying, well, you could get another Obscuring Fog, but what are the odds? What are the odds? Seriously. Yes. Anyway, let's move into the enemy phase. No enemies to speak of. We move into upkeep. We get haunted. Well, you know what? It's better we get haunted now rather than when the Ghoul Priest turns up. So I'm okay with that. Let's move into up 3 Doom of the agenda. Let's see what the encounter deck has. And it's got, oh my goodness, how much horror. We might need another big cop at this rate because it is a Rotting Remains. And we have no cards to commit to this. All we've got is Lucky. So we're looking at a 2 versus a 3. Wow, a 2 versus a 3. This is nasty. Let's see what we do in terms of the encounter deck. And we get a -3. Okay, so that would get us to 0, wouldn't it? Which means we would take 3 points of horror. -3. I don't even know we can use Lucky because we're at a 2. -3 is 0, so we're down by 3. Oh, when you would fail a skill test, okay, you get +2. So, yeah, wow. Because the best we could do with 3 is we would give the beat cop 1, and we would take 2 more, which would get us to 4. I think I'm going to play the Lucky. I'll play the Lucky. And so that's 1 versus 3, so we take 2. Is that right? Let me think about this. 2 minus 3 is 0. 2 versus 3. No, we take 1. So do we get rid of the beat cop and bring out another beat cop? I think we take the damage. I don't want to waste the beat cop. There we go. 3 of the 6. Wow. Brutal. Brutal. We're taking so much horror. It's really nasty. Okay. Let's move into the investigation phase. 3 actions onto poor old Carson. This has been very frustrating. And we're going to take 2 actions to get rid of our Haunted. So that's good. We've got 1 action left. What do we do with our final action? We've really got no way of investigating now. And I think we just draw a card and we get As You Wish again. Wow, is it so hard to get clue cards? Enemy phase, no enemies to speak of. Upkeep. Oh no, selfless to a fault. Oh no, not again. Oh my goodness. Wow, we really might need the beat cop at this rate. Oh boy, we're taking so much horror. It's not funny. Okay, we move into the missiles phase. 4 of the 7 are down. Let's see what the encounter deck has. And it has a ghoul minion. A ghoul minion. Okay, there we go. Okay, no big deal. All right, well, here we are in the investigation phase. Pity we don't have that evidence card, but anyway, that would have been really nice to have that, you know. It would be nice, but anyway, we don't. So let's take on this ghoul minion. Hello! So, ghoul minion is a 2 fight, and we are a 2, a 3, 4. So we're a 4 fight. 4 versus 2, that seems pretty good to me. So let's do, let's use one of the resources to get a +1 damage. So we're 2 up, and if we succeed, we'll kill this ghoul minion. Chaos Bag gives us a skull, which is -X for each ghoul enemy, which is -1. We succeed, we kill the ghoul minion. When does this go back up? At the start of each round. Maybe it does that itself, I'm not sure. Okay, so there we go. We've killed the ghoul minion. That's the first action. Well, I guess we just keep drawing cards. Second action, we will draw... Well, there we go. Now that's Unexpected Courage. So why don't we, for our third action, just give it a go and go 4 versus 4. Let's see how we go. Chaos Bag gives us a 0. We did it. Yes, we got a clue. Thank God. Oh my goodness. Yes, we got a clue. So we've only got to get 1 more clue here. But it's the end of our turn. So this shuffles back into our deck. And we take another horror. Wow. Wow, 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 wow. This is not good. Anyway. Let's move into the enemy phase. There are no enemies to speak of, so we move into upkeep. Emergency cash. Where are all these clue cards of mine? Wow. Let's move into the Mythos phase. There is now 5 of 7. Time is moving on. Let's see what the encounter deck has. And it's got a Grasping Hand. So this is opposite of Rotting Remains. This is testing 3. And we are at 2. Now we can make that a 4 versus a 3 using manual dexterity. Let's go ahead and do that. We're 1 up. Chaos Bag gives us a skull, so we succeed. So that's good. So we don't take any damage, and we draw a card. Oh, can you believe it? Another Selfless to a Fault. Oh, boy. I think I'm going to... Well, we don't do it yet. Can you believe we got this card again? But I think I'm going to have to get rid of the Beat Cop. Wow. Investigation phase. 3 actions onto Carson. Oh. Okay, first action. I'm going to use Emergency Cash and give ourselves another 3. Right. But I'm not going to use them yet. Second action, I'm going to draw. Here we go! At last! At last! Look what I found in my deck. Final action, let's go ahead and investigate. So we are a 2 versus a 4. Wow, we're actually... Okay, let's see. We've got to fail a skill test by 2 or less. So we're already at 2 or less, actually. Oh, boy. We can't use this, can we? Anyway, let's see. Let's see what happens. We get a -3, so no. Okay, well, we've got it for next time. I mean, yeah. Oh, anyway. End of the turn. This goes back into our deck. Shuffle that up. I'm going to put it on the Beat Cop. I can't keep taking horror. And we will bring out the Beat Cop next time. Oh, boy, this is taking forever. Enemy phase, no enemies to speak of. We move into up... Oh, what? Again? I don't believe this. I really don't believe this. Oh, my goodness. How many times can we draw this card? Mythos phase, 6 of the 7. Let's see what the encounter deck has. Oh, no, not obscure. Okay. All right. That's it. That's it. There's no point trying anymore. We're done. We've got our 3 clues. We're going to have to give it up, and we're going to have to move on. Oh, boy. Never mind. Okay, well, that's answered everything for us now. 3 actions. Okay, first action, we're going to bring out the Beat Cop. Yep. Second action, we're going to move up to the hallway. Yep. Third action... We're going to draw a card. Probably. Draw a card. Yes, nice. Okay. All right. We've done our actions. It's the end of our turn. We take another horror, which we will put onto the Beat Cop. Goes back in. We shuffle it up. I have been shuffling it up. Haven't I? I definitely have been shuffling the deck. Yes, shuffles deck. Yes, I have been shuffling the deck. Okay, so when do we do this? When the round ends. So we're not at the end of the round yet. We move into the enemy phase. There are no enemies. We move into upkeep. We get, look at this. Now we have them. Oh my goodness. Almost enough to get Leader Chandler at this rate, but evasion is a problem for us, so it's not going to happen. Okay, end of the round. Let's throw in the 3 clues. Yep, barrier. Let's flip it over. Using the barrel from the attic, you carry ice and snow from the cellar and hurl it at the barrier. The barrier sparks and shudders as it consumes the ice and hisses and flades. It flades out of existence. So reveal the parlor, put Leader Chandler aside in the parlor, and the ghoul, right? There's Leader Chandler. Oh, hello, Carson. How are you? I'm very comfortable in this parlor. I think I'll just watch while you kill the ghoul priest. And then, of course, we put the ghoul priest in the hallway. Hello, Carson. Hello, Big Cop. Oh, Is that a runic axe? I was wondering if you could maybe, we could be friends and you could share some of your silver polishing skills or something with me, or... Yes, the ghoul priest is looking very nervous. Okay, so there we go. What have you done? A woman with a torch stands in your parlour, a glimmer of hatred in her eyes. What have you done to my barrier? She screams furious. Before you can answer, a ghastly wail sounds behind you, and a creature wearing robes and a deer skull mask tears through the wall, advancing toward you. If the ghoul priest is defeated, advance. There we go. Cool. Well, that's all very well, but we move into the mythos phase, and guess what? The mythos phase flips as well. I can't believe we took so long on that. A feral beast, roughly humanoid with canine casque and hooves for feet, tears through the ground in front of you. Below the floor, you see vast tunnels beneath your house. Fiendish howling echoes from deep within the underground caverns. Shuffle the encounter discard pile into the encounter deck. Done. Discard cards from the top of the encounter deck until a ghoul enemy is discarded. Draw that enemy. Okay, so we shuffle it up again. And not rats. Not rats. It's a ravenous ghoul. Okay. Oof. There we go. Okay. They're getting out. You hear a craze howl outside, and suddenly all the creatures turn their attention to that sound. They rush to escape the house, breaking down doors and clawing at everything in their way. At the end of the enemy phase, each unengaged ghoul enemy moves one location toward the parlour. At the end of the round, place a doom on this agenda for each ghoul enemy in the hallway or parlour. So there we go. But it's not over yet, because we still have to draw from the encounter deck, and we get a grasping hands. Okay, not the end of the world. Not great, but not the end of the world. Okay, grasping hands. I'm not going to commit anything to it, so we are a 2 versus a 3. Let's see what the Chaos Bag has. It's a skull, so those are, for each ghoul enemy, there are 2 at the moment, so it's a -2. So we're a 2, which means we're a 0, which means we take 3 points of damage. 3 points of damage. Wow. Let's put 1 on Beat Cop. Yep, let's put 1 on us. 2 on us, sorry. Oh. There we go. Ouch. Okay, well, we better not take any more damage or horror. And the ghoul priest has retaliate, so this could be very bad. This could be very bad, but I think, I think we're in a good position. So, what are we going to do here? Well, 3 actions onto Carson. Right. Now, we have this exploit weakness. Fast play before revealing a chaos token during an attack or an evasion attempt you're performing. If the difficulty of the test is 0, it succeeds. And if it's an elite enemy, evade it and deal 3 damage instead. So, I definitely want to use this. But we are at a... so, we're fighting... We are at a 2, 3, 4, and the ghoul priest is also at 4. So if we're fighting with the runic axe, it gets +1. We've got 2. We get +1 with the beat cop. So we're at 4 versus 4. So we are at 0. Yep. So I am going to spend 2. And I'm going to do this. Exploit weakness. Fast play. Before revealing chaos token. This test automatically succeeds. If this discard the attacked or evaded enemy, if it is elite, automatically evade it and deal 3 damage. Wow. Where have you gone? Ow! 3 damage. Well, that's a good start. Awesome. So we only need to do 2 more points of damage, so let's go for it. So let's use the runic axe again for our second action. Let's throw in 2 of these. So what have we got? +2. So we're 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 on a 4. Let's make that an 8 on a 4. So that's 4 up. I don't think we can do any better than that. We're going to do 2 points of damage, which is all we need to do. So we don't even need to use the Vicious Blow. We should keep the Vicious Blow in case this is an auto-fail, which I hope it isn't. But if we succeed, the Ghoul Priest will be dead. Yep. Let's see what the Chaos Bag has. And the Chaos Bag, we swing the Runic Axe. And the Chaos Bag gives us 0, and we succeed. Yes. And we do 2 more points to the Ghoul Priest. And the Ghoul Priest goes down. Ah! And the crowd goes wild. And Carson waves at the crowd. The Ravenous Ghoul retreats. Carson waves at the crowd with his Runic Axe. Wow, what a display. That was quite the game. So there we go. Yes, only turn 11. Unfortunately, we only got the 3 victory instead of 4 victory points because, as I predicted, we ended up getting Obscuring Fog down in the cellar, which really, I mean, even if we'd tried to use both of our Look What I Founds, you know, we would have been a 6 versus a 6. I mean, it was just crazy. We've only just now drawn Shed the Light. So, you know, if we'd gotten that earlier, we could have done that, but we just didn't get these clue cards when we needed them, which was really, really unfortunate. We spent a lot of time trying to get them. So we always knew that finishing off the Ghoul Priest was going to be relatively easy. I mean, we didn't even need to exploit weakness. We had the Vicious Blow, and we had, you know, we could have done another 3 points of damage anyway. We also had the Beat Cop that we could discard, so we had lots and lots of different ways of doing things. So it really came down to the fact that we just didn't get our clue cards when we needed them, which was a little bit unfortunate. But that's the way that it goes in the Investigator games. So thank you very much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Now, next time in the Investigator Games in Season 1, Episode 51, we will be taking... who will be taking? We will be taking Daryl Simmons, the photographer and survivor investigator for the Scarlet Keys through The Gathering, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing how he goes. But until then, I'm Krabby Terror 8. Thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.